Thank you, everybody, for coming to help Andrew and I with this very difficult moment. So Elan was the most brilliant child I ever met. He was reading chapter books when he was 3. He was incredibly curious about the world. He knew every capital, all the birds, all the flowers. He could name the make and model of any car that drove by our house. He had never-ending inquisitiveness.
He grew up in West Hartford, surrounded by his siblings, family, friends, and community. Perhaps it was when my sister Miriam and her son Brian moved in with us after her husband passed away, or later when my mother lived with us for several years before she passed, but it is then he first developed his strong sense of family connectedness and commitment. He remained close with Carolyn's parents to this day. It was also during this period that he developed his love of all things nature. He would go on hikes with us, often taking the lead in planning, and sending us down winding, narrow paths to see all manner of natural wonders. His 8th grade trip with his principal, Rabbi Mordechai Weiss, had a profound impact on him that would become pivotal later on.
At one point in high school, he became interested in learning how to fly, so he joined the Civil Air Patrol, a junior division of the Air Force. Towards the end of high school, he decided that he wanted to join the Army and to go to West Point Academy, and he was nominated for entry by his congressman and senator. Ultimately, that didn't materialize, and he decided to go to University of Michigan with a year of learning in Israel first at Derech.
While in Israel, he fell in love with the land and the people. This was where he wanted to be. He was going to serve in the IDF, but not just as an American volunteer for 18 months, but as a citizen. He was going to make Aliyah. He spent 6 months on Ulpan Kibbutz Sdei Eliyahu to get his Hebrew up to speed. Then, despite initially receiving a medical exemption from Army service, he was able to enlist to work as a computer programmer in the Mofet unit.
Elan was an academic at heart, so after his IDF service, he pursued a degree at Columbia University. His love of studying and learning was evidenced by a notebook he kept with a long list of all the possible majors he might choose. He had a difficult time choosing, but after 2 years, he was finally able to settle on studying neuroscience and sustainable development. As part of his studies, he trained on a sophisticated computer mapping program, which allowed him to pursue a career in the area of his first love, geography. Through school, he worked with the UN on mapping various municipalities and borders throughout Africa. This would lead to his postgraduate employment at the Esri Company as a geographic analyst, and also his hobby working for Pathloom, a startup hiking app.
With his strong sense of independence, developed during his time in Israel, and his natural inquisitiveness, he spent much free time traveling and visiting with friends all over the world. He loved to see different cultures, wander through old cities, tour museums, hike, and see beautiful natural spots. During his freshman summer at Columbia University, through his involvement with the Israel-China Connection Club at school, he traveled around China, working with an Israeli startup incubator firm, seeking Chinese investors. Elan learned the products to be able to present about them in English to the potential investors. It was a very special experience for him.
Elan loved to cook, and he had an adventurous culinary palate. Perhaps influenced by his time in China, at the beginning of COVID, spring of 2020, when all the kids came home for several months, Elan, ever the soup lover, decided to master the art of ramen noodle soup making. He purchased a pasta machine and proceeded to teach himself, making batch after batch. He was a very passionate individual, and when he was passionate about something, he pursued it fully and deeply. Even earlier, when he lived with his friend Akiva Garfield during college, they started having a soup night, making a different soup from around the world, in alphabetical order, of course, once each week, unique ingredients at all. What started as just a small group of roommates came to include friends and then friends of friends, an ever-enlarging circle of acquaintances. He cherished spending time in this bubble of friends, including several he has been with since grade school.
We last spent time with Elan a few weeks ago when he came home for Shabbat before his trip here. He loved to spend time together playing games, often introducing us to a new game to play as a family. It was both a highlight for him and for us. It was often late on Friday night when I would be cleaning up from Shabbat dinner that we would spend hours discussing the finer points of current events, politics, and religion. He loved to think and analyze and most of all debate.
He was such a gift in our life, with so many attributes, a whole life of so much potential. He wanted so much to see the world, to soak up every aspect of all the beauty, all the history, all the culture. Our loss is a loss for the world of such an emerging, bright, shiny, brilliant star. We feel as if a part of our being has been taken from us. He was so loved. He will be missed so much.